You're listening to Literally First Class, the podcast for female founders behind multi-million-dollar brands and businesses. I'm your host, Keri Ford, creative director turned 3-time award-winning coach, real estate investor, mom, and the one-on-one private advisor for multi-7- and 8-figure firms. If you're ready to make your next million, expand your impact, and lead with even more confidence, you're in the right place. Let's take your life and business first class.
So in the last episode, I shared a personal story about how Jake and I broke up briefly, and then we had a reconciliation and got back together, which brings me to someone special that was helpful and responsible for helping coordinate that reconciliation, whose name is Jeff Goins. So those of you that don't know Jeff Goins, Jeff is a best-selling author and an award-winning writer, and I met him at a mastermind hosted in Nashville back in 2020, I think it was. It was the summer of 2020, and Jake and I were in a mastermind together, and I sit down to eat lunch, and this guy who is supposed to be one of the guest expert speakers sits down next to me at the table while we're eating lunch, and he's very bizarre. He starts asking me a series of very quick and direct questions. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's so quirky and weird. And he gets up to speak. I have no idea who he is, by the way. Jake was fangirling because he has bought and read pretty much every book that Jeff has ever written. So Jake's like, that's Jeff Goins. And I'm like, who? Who is it? So Jeff gets up to speak. He's just brilliant. He is quirky. He's amazing. And he and I actually started to bond over our divorce because we were both the same age. We have 2 kids the same age. We both were going through a divorce at the same time. And so we had actually kind of this interesting life parallel. Well, fast forward, and it's totally a podcast for another day, but him and Jake become like best friends. They go on a road trip. It's something out of a movie, and I'll have to tell you the full story when Jake is on the podcast another time. But Jeff said something, and I can't remember if he said it at the mastermind event or just in all the random conversations and dinners that we've had with him since then. But he said when you write the book, it becomes the book you can't not write. And that always sticks with me because when you're an artist and you're a creative and a visionary and you have this borderline obsession where your brain can't turn off, that's literally me. And, a lot of people think, oh, well, it's a motivation issue. But the thing is when it's in you and you can't not write it, you don't need motivation to actually get you to pen the pages. It just starts pouring out of you. You can't keep it in. It's like a jar where the lid is ready to explode and pop off. And so when he said, when you begin to write, it becomes the book you cannot write, I think about the way that that's applied to life, in your soul essence, in the way that you show up, in the way that you are so brilliant, in the way that you are so creative, and like your gifts, what makes you you. And I think a lot of leaders, as they start to climb and ascend in their success ladder, I'll say, maybe you think that success needs to look different, or success at this level now needs to look and sound different. But in fact, what got you there in this level of embodiment and radical self-acceptance is in fact what was magnetic about you to begin with. And so, I was thinking again about the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, and I talked about, this is kind of like a part 2 of that, but part 1 on our episode last week, I talked all about how going to prison set Martha free. It was her worst fear come to reality, right? Like the one thing, like this image of perfection was shattered, and like the absolute worst possible thing, like as a personal brand where you are the center literally of everything, your whole empire comes crashing down. And that's in fact what set her free.
This message sponsored by Po Hung Yu.
Have you ever thought about microdosing before? Maybe you've even seen documentaries like Fantastic Fungi or How to Change Your Mind on Netflix. By the way, I have a funny story about the Fantastic Fungi, but you're going to have to ask me offline. Or maybe you've heard about the extensive research happening in the best universities and the evidence showing how mushrooms are game-changing for those with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and even PTSD. So many female leaders and moms have jumped on the microdosing bandwagon to help them better manage modern-day stress. I want to introduce you to our new brand partner, Po Hung Yu. She's a self-mastery mentor, microdosing guide, and a former acupuncturist. And as a successful woman like me, like you, imagine a life where your brain and your nervous system can just relax. That's exactly what happens when you microdose and you're guided by an experienced facilitator. So you can actually be present and enjoy your life minus the anxiety, overwhelm, and stress. The best part is you don't feel high, there's no psychedelic effect, and no one will know. You can still work, be with your kids, drive, exercise, and live your normal day-to-day life. But you'll still receive all of the amazing benefits of mushrooms, like increasing neuroplasticity, flow, creativity, focus, and even your connection and intimacy with your loved ones. Not only will you receive a 15-minute consult where Po will tell you exactly how this process works so you can decide if it's a fit for you, but you'll also get a bonus of $500 off and a complimentary root cause assessment call worth over $800 when you decide to work with Po. Click the link below in the show notes to get started today. So another thing that happened is, and she goes to prison, and I'm not going to reveal all of it. I'm just going to share like little tidbits because I want you to go watch it. That's a little homework for you this week. But while she's in jail, she has this mantra that she has taken through life and she brings with her to jail, which is learn something every day. So she goes, man, like, she's thinking to herself that it's really, not that it's challenging to learn something every day, but that the resources are limited in jail. That, there's a garden, but it leaves much to be desired. And there's barely any fresh food, and she loves cooking and she loves entertaining and she loves inspiring and teaching. But the thing that happens over time when she's in jail for those 5 months is she starts hosting like a lunch party that has these cucumber sandwiches. And I just kind of chuckled to myself because what an interesting juxtaposition, first of all, cucumber sandwiches in prison, but also how brilliant that the beingness of you just cannot be shushed and suppressed and locked up and hidden away. It's like she can't help but just be her. And that is what made her and makes her such a successful personal brand. That is the thing that will, create, well, it's not creating, it is authentic, but it creates magnetism and attraction because people want to know like what this je ne sais quoi thing is about you, but it's the you-ness of you. Like the magic is you. There's actually no secret formula. And once you learn that, you start unapologetically accepting everything that you are in all aspects and being that louder, bigger, and longer, because that's the thing that actually, in fact, will launch you to the next level of success. And so I just thought, man, that's so interesting because Jeff has this quote, it's the book you can't not write. There's no motivation required there. And often when I'm creating something, it's bubbling up within me. And here's Martha Stewart entertaining a luncheon with cucumber sandwiches in fucking prison, and she can't help but be herself. And I just thought, that's how strong and how convicted you need to be in the essence of who you are and how you show up in every day, whether you're in your everyday operations or you're friggin' in prison. I hope you're not in prison, but you need to be who you are loudly, unapologetically. That is the secret sauce. That's the code to success that a lot of people don't talk about, especially if you have a personal brand. So when you can't, it's like she can't not do it. It's crazy. I just find that to be so incredible. Here's the other thing that this will dictate. It'll dictate every decision that you make based off of gut instincts and intuition and a deep, deep, intrinsic self-trust and inner knowingness where, somebody comes to you and says, hey, I have a book deal for you. You want to do it this way, and here's what I envision for the cover. And there's just something in you that goes, that's just not it. It's not quite right. That's not me. Listen to that. Like, go where you are called to go and be authentic about it. So I love that interesting tidbit. And I also love Jeff, by the way. If you have not heard of him, he has written books like You Are a Writer, The Art of Work, Real Artists Don't Starve, Wrecked, The In-Between. Those are his 5 best-selling books. Anyway, he's amazing. He has no idea that I'm even plugging him right now. And then he has a very interesting Substack that I love reading from time to time because, like I said, he is so quirky, and he's very funny despite his dry sense of humor. You might not get it at first, but I hope you do. And I just love having smart friends that we get to grab coffees and dinners with because it makes life so much more interesting. Anyway, I hope this episode finds you well, and I will see you on next week's Keep It First Class.
Thanks for tuning in to Literally First Class. If today's episode inspired you, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps us reach even more incredible women like you who are ready to level up, lead with impact, and make first-class moves. I'll see you in the next episode, but until then, keep dreaming big and taking bold action.